Hi, and welcome to this edition of the Software Lifecycle Stories. In episode 0, I had shared how I learned the concept of DevOps when I wrote my very first program, and also the importance of thinking of the user experience right from the inception stage. In this episode, I want to share some more of my experiences that shaped and improved me as a software professional. The first story today is related to managing user expectations and focusing on creating valuable solutions. It was around 1983 when, due to a combination of unusual circumstances, I landed at the world headquarters of our partner company, Burroughs Corporation. I had to travel there at a short notice because the person who had been deputed had decided to leave the organization and someone else needed to fill that position. The main reason I was chosen was because I knew the language called ALGOL. Now, ALGOL, for those of you who are familiar with the history of computer languages, was one of the first high-level languages that derived its name from algorithmic language. It was a very elegant language and a very powerful language on the Burroughs platform, as the hardware had also been designed to maximize the benefits of such a language using what's called as the stack concept. That made the compiling and execution of programs very efficient. But then I digress. The main story is about the work that had to be done in ALGOL. There was an internal MIS application that had been developed in ALGOL, and there was a backlog of reports that the users had requested. When I went to the office and met my manager, he pointed me to a pile of specifications of reports that needed to be created. Being a young developer, my ego was hurt. Here I was, a specialist in the ALGOL language that was considered an elitist language, read for the computer geeks, compared to Fortran for the scientists or engineers, or COBOL for the business programmers. So there I was, a computer engineer, or should I be computer scientist, I don't know, who had discovered the powers of recursion or iterations that was easy to implement in ALGOL. I felt that it was not exciting or commensurate with my expertise to write report programs. I was tense and pored over the specifications. There were 27 reports to be created. That would have kept me busy for the next few weeks for sure. As I was talking to a colleague over lunch and shared my dilemma, he suggested that I explain my position to our manager, who was a very considerate person. So I did that right after lunch. I told him that I am an ALGOL programmer. What I did not say, as an ALGOL programmer, my gift to humankind would be to create more exciting solutions than just some reports. I feel that I should be doing things to make it easier for the users and not dump them with more paper reports. After all, online programming was a lot better looking on resumes than saying that you were a report writer. But I added, since you are paying for my services, I will do what you say. Just that I felt that it would be efforts better spent in creating something that was more relevant. My manager thought for a moment and smiled. Shiv, he said, I like your idea. But I'm not sure just this is enough reason for the users to change their minds. Why don't you take a couple of days and get back to me with your proposal? If you're not able to convince me, you have to get on writing these 27 reports. Deal, I said, though I had no clue as to how or what I would come up with in the proposal. The rest of the day till late evening, as well as most of the next morning, was spent in just understanding the report requirements, the functionality that already existed in the application, and where there were differences. By that evening, I had made a list of all the 27 reports with my comments. When I met my manager the next morning, he was happy to see the table. With his experience on the application and also the user's needs, he helped me classify the reports under multiple categories, such as information that already was available in another report, maybe in a slightly different or formatted differently, information that is available on a screen, reports that might produce more than 10 pages of data on paper, information that may be added to existing reports or screens, doubts on the use of some reports. With this, we both went to meet the users. My manager did all the talking, and I was just an observer. He would first share his understanding of the related business process and how the information sought is being used or expected to be used. Once he had the agreement of the users, he would proceed to ask them if they would still be useful or possibly more useful if the information was taken from another report or a screen. Based on their response, he would then share the proposal that we had worked together. In every case, we were able to achieve the desired outcome. Now, I had to implement changes to 5 screens, create 2 new screens, modify 7 existing reports, and create 2 new reports. 10 reports were determined by the users as no longer needed. This was a very big learning for me on multiple fronts. That one can and must find the intrinsic value to our customers and see how best we can deliver. Doing extensive homework is a must, and that will also show the sincerity with which the recommendations are made. Go with options and reasoning for the options. Involve the users in moving towards the solution and not make it as a one-sided take it or leave it recommendation. So the main learning that I have been able to carry with me over multiple roles is related to managing the backlog, as it's called in the agile world. The second story for today is related to user experience. It was in the late 80s. We were developing a solution for the forex traders to make their trading activity easier using an automated solution. We wanted to include some cool new technology and explode voice as an input channel. This was based on what a domain expert told us about how a forex dealer participates in trading. Every dealer has multiple phones. Some of them are hotlines with other exchanges, and with the exchange rates changing dynamically, they need to identify arbitrage opportunities, have quick conversations with multiple traders, and close a deal. All this in less than 30 seconds. Since the traders are already comfortable using phones, our technical minds said that voice input will be the best. We built a prototype and wanted to test it out in a live environment, after being satisfied that we had cracked the problem. On the trading floor, we realized that there were other practical challenges. First, there was no space to keep the computer, as there were multiple phones and the desks were not very large. Second, with multiple phones and traders having conversations with other traders almost simultaneously, as well as other traders also sitting close by, there was just too much ambient noise and it became difficult to recognize the commands in time. So, back to the drawing board, or rather design board. This time we said, let us use a touch screen. Remember, we were talking about the 80s when touchscreen technologies were not as prevalent as now. We had to import some standard sized screens and figure out how to mount them on a smaller than standard size monitors, as we also wanted to reduce the footprint taken by the computer on the trader's desk. Now, with all that working, we were ready for our second field trial. This time, while we saved the space for the keyboard on the desk, we had challenges getting the traders' attention to the smaller than standard screens that was placed next to the larger than standard screens displaying the exchange rates. And with so much of data constantly changing, even with some variations in placement, we had one other feedback, that it was very cumbersome to enter data. The aha moment for us was when we had essentially strapped on a touchscreen to a natively keyboard-based input metaphor. Back to the drawing board. But this time, focusing mainly on the user experience. I'm happy to share that there were many firsts we got in this iteration and those that created a wow for the traders. One, we decided to sink the monitor below the desk so that the touchscreen was like a tabletop. This not only saved space, but was also essentially replacing the notebook that traders were used to jotting down their trades that were then passed on to the back office. We decided to pretty much replace the large monitors by incorporating the data feeds into the screen itself. In doing this, we could also filter out only the relevant streams based on, for example, the currency pairs that a particular trader is interested in. An added feature was to highlight the changing digits to grab their attention. The third was an interface for data entry, which is also simplified. Using some algorithms to arrive at intelligent defaults by trader and trade. This was long before AI-based algorithms and routines were available for the desktops. and the trader needed to scroll up or down on the pips or the last digit or two. This version was well received, and we were able to get more customers based on the first customer's feedback. Some of the lessons learned through this product for me were: 1. Understanding the user behavior based on observation in their actual work environment gives valuable insights that no other theoretical or third-party proxy inputs can give us. Second, this has to be supplemented with conversations with the actual users, or a typical sample at least, to understand their real pains. Third, when choosing technology, particularly new technology, understanding and ensuring the compatibility with other technologies and solutions being used must be considered, both from an integration perspective as well as the user experience perspective. Finally, getting users co-opted early in the life cycle and using options to co-create the solutions in an evolutionary basis help in ensuring success in the adoption of the solution. I realize now, after many years, that some of those lessons are evergreen. Some have become more popular under different labels, such as lean startup or design thinking, etc., and are surely helping many teams be successful. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you have your own stories of how you handle user experience and how that has influenced your own thought process as well, made you more effective, do share that. And if you love to narrate these stories, get in touch to be considered to be featured in one of the future podcasts. Bye.